Welcome to Artistic Adventures. This is the final video in our Elizabeth I doll project. We're going to be doing some final touches, doing some jewelry, replacing her wig on and fixing her hair and doing a headpiece for her and a couple of other little things. So let's get started. Here's our doll, still without her wig, and the first thing that we're going to do is mold a cap to put on the top of her head that we're going to decorate, and that's going to be her headpiece. And I'm using this Primo Sculpey polymer clay for that. Now I want to mold it to her head as it is because I want it to be the shape of her head when it's finally finished, and then I'll put it on top of the hair. Now I folded this aluminum foil over about 4 times because I wanted to make a sort of a mold, not really a mold, but just a place to put the polymer clay when I cook it so that it doesn't lose its shape. Alright, I'm going to cut out a triangle about the shape that I think I need. Then I'm going to take a single layer of the aluminum foil so it doesn't bunch up and cause the clay to have a bump in it when I press it down on it. And then we're going to put the triangle on her head with one of the points facing toward her forehead, and then we'll have a little pearl drop down on that later. So I'm just going to go ahead and press this down on the aluminum foil so that it conforms to the shape of her head. Then I can set it on top of that mold or base that I made of the folded piece of aluminum foil so it won't lose its shape while it's cooking, and put it right in on I put it in my toaster oven, 275 for 30 minutes. And while that's cooking, we'll work on some other things. But setting it on top of that helps it keep its shape. Alright, so that's that part. And now let's move on to a necklace. I wanted her to have some gold, but also emeralds. And so I found these little tiny gold flowers that I think are going to work. And so what I'm going to do is string them on just regular thread so they'll hang properly. If you use something too strong, it won't hang like a necklace on her neck. Then I put a little bit of E6000 on some aluminum foil, and I'm going to use a pointy tip tool here to just put a little tiny bit of this on the center of each flower. And then I'll put the emerald Swarovski crystal right in the center. And if you have trouble picking those up with your finger, actually what I do is lick my finger before I pick it up. And that works really good. I've tried other methods like those wax pencils and stuff to pick up crystals, and I don't like them because they leave residue on the crystal that leaves it cloudy. So I just use my finger and lick it. I don't know how you guys do it, but that's how I do it. So I've put all these emeralds on here, and now I'm going to string them onto the thread, and I tied a knot with about 3 inches or 4 inches of thread past the knot, so I'll be able to tie it onto her neck. So once I have it done, and I did put some glue there on that knot too so that it wouldn't pull through on those little beads. Alright, so now I'm just going to tie 3 or 4 knots into that necklace, and then after I do that, I'll put a little dab of glue on it to make sure that it holds, and then making sure all the crystals are turned upwards, and there's our royal necklace. Sometimes it's hard to do necklaces on these dolls because you just don't have a lot of real estate on their neck, between the neck and the chest. Alright, this is a pair of lace over the knee hose that I bought. They're 4 Monster High. I think I found them on Amazon actually, and they're just really well made, and they have a little elastic kind of lacy thing at the top. And with my hand bothering me, trying to turn things like this small stuff is really difficult, so I just went ahead and purchased them. And also I have some pantaloons that I made off camera for her before my hands started getting bad, and hopefully we're going to get that fixed next week. I got surgery on Monday. Of course I will be out of commission for about 6 weeks, but we'll still have some videos. So she has her over the knee hose and her pantaloons and her nice shoes. That's all the stuff under the dress. Now for her hairstyle, you notice this has some little squiggly pieces that come down on either side of her head. and then of course the curly top of the part. So to get those squiggly pieces, I braided the two long pieces that were left of her wig, and so just pull the strings off that's been braided overnight so that it conforms, and then I'll just take my sharp tool and spread out the braids, and they leave sort of a wavy pattern, as you know if you've ever braided your own hair. And that's going to be the look that she will have for these little small strands that are going to come around her neck on either side. I didn't want to have them too long because they weren't long in the pictures or the paintings, and also you don't want to cover up the dress or the neckline of the dress. All right, so we're putting that wig on, and I'll have to mess with it a little bit, of course, as we go, and pull those strands around on either side of her neck, and we'll get it all situated here in a minute, but we've got a few more things to do before I do the final hair. So we've baked our little cap. We take it off with aluminum foil, and now you can see it's that shape, dome shape that fits on top of her hair nicely. And so we're going to decorate this now. And one of the first things I want to do is put this braided gold and white trim around the edge of the hat. And I'm going to start with one of the back corners and just glue one side. I like to do this and let it dry, because then when you're doing corners, once it's dry, you have more leverage to pull it around and make a nice point. Now for this pearl drop, I'm using just regular sewing thread, and I'm not gonna tie a knot because I don't want it to be seen at the bottom of the pearl. I want to just put a glob of glue on the end of this thread, and then we'll just pull the thread until it just goes through the pearl and is not visible anymore, and then we'll let it dry, and that way it'll be a nice little drop and you won't see the thread coming out or a knot coming out the bottom. So you see I've got the glob of glue, and I'm just going to pull this down real easy until the thread just disappears, and we'll let that dry really well before we use it. And now the worst part of dolls, putting on eyelashes. I just really am not good at this. Usually I do it off camera, but I'm going to show you the technique that I use, and you may have better techniques. But I put a little tiny dab of just tacky glue right on the inner corner where I want the edge of the lash to go, and then I attach it just at that part first and let it dry. Once again, once you have that, if you're trying to curve it around the eye and get it to fit all at one time, sometimes it just is really difficult. Plus, I want to make sure that the lashes are standing up and they don't fall down, and it can get really messy. At least for me. I see other people do it. They just pop them on and it seems like it's magic. But so I'm just going to put the glue down this inner corner of the eye first and let the rest of the lash just angle upwards for now, loose. And once it's dry, we'll be able to glue down the other end, but making sure that that other side near the nose is not displaced by us moving the other side around. So this is just how I do it, and I just make sure that the lashes are pointed up, and we'll let those dry while we go back to our little headpiece. So now that we have this pretty much dried, I'm going to go ahead and glue another side, and we'll also be attaching the pearl here, because this point that I'm at right there is where the pearl is going to go. So I want to make sure there's glue there. So I'm going to slide the pearl underneath the braid, so it's between the braid and the clay, and I want it to hang down right at the point, and don't want too much of the thread to show, just enough that it can dangle, and then I can fold that braid up and glue it to the other side, and we'll let that dry. Once that's done, we can come back and dry and glue the back piece. And just making sure that that pearl is right in the middle. That would drive me crazy if it ended up not being in the middle. It's like a picture on the wall, that's crooked. Alright, so we let that left side dry, and now we're going to glue the back part. And make sure you put glue on the ends there where they join so that they don't come unraveled. And you do kind of have to hold this just a little bit, especially at the corner there, to make sure that you have a sharp corner instead of a rounded corner. But that's why it's good to do it in sections and let it dry so you have a little more control over it. Alright, so we're going to cut off those two ends there and then squish them together with your fingers so they come together, and make sure that they're nice and glued down and they won't come unraveled. And that's how that's going to look. Alright, back to the lashes. Yeah, we're going to finish this up. Oh, I hate this part. Alright, so now that the inner corner is dry, we can put a little dab over on the outside corner. And so I always just, I don't know, I just can't do this well. Maybe I'll do it better after my hand surgery. That's something to look forward to. And then you can just hold that side down until it forms and dries, and hopefully that will be in the right place. Alright, so did the same thing on the other lash, and now we're going to go back to our little headpiece. And we're going to put some of our E6000 over the entire surface, and this is going to be the finishing touch. I'm going to just use these real tiny seed beads that I have that are sort of a bronze color. So that'll kind of accent the dress, which is sort of a darker gold color. And if you have a place where you miss, where you need to put one, just use your tool and stick it in there like that. And press those down with your finger so you make sure they're all in the glue and all the areas are covered. And we'll let that dry, and that will be our finished headpiece. Alright, so it's all dried now. Turned out really nice. And so now I've got some glue on the bottom of that, and I'm pressing it down into her hair where I want it. Alright, and that's our finished thing that we're going to do for this doll. I did put some little earrings on her, put the little green crystals glued to her ear. I didn't show you that. But here she is in all her glory. Here's Queen Elizabeth. There's a full look at the entire costume. And keeping in mind she does have, the shoes and everything underneath. And I'll give you some close-ups of different aspects so you can see it. Alright. There's the head and the headpiece. A little bit closer view so you can see the necklace as well. I really like how those little beads sort of accent the color of the dress and also have a little, almost a green tint to them. Here's a side view so you can see the back attached there with the little cape type attachment. And of course her pretty shoes with the tassels, the over the knee hose, and her pantaloons, because we don't want the queen to be without her underwear. And another look at her a little bit closer. She does have the ruby ring too. Okay, so that's it for this series. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be doing some videos that don't require me to use my hands, so we won't be doing series for a while. It takes me about 6 weeks to get out of the cast. So bear with me, but we'll have some fun stuff to talk about and chat. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Thanks, and bye.